All right, guys. So because we've already talked about several of these things and I don't want to make another 15-minute video, um, I'm going to just briefly go over the last two steps, and then I'm going to talk about some things that I want you to make sure as a peer that you do. Okay? So first of all, we talked about focused explanation and we talked about logical organization. So the other two parts sections are the strategies that your peer uses to explain their concept, and then like a clear integration of sources, right? So, did they use definition? Did they use process analysis? Did they use cause effect? Did they use compare contrast? What strategies did they use? And did they use more than one? So in this one, they for sure use more than one. They use definition, they compare contrast, they use kind of the process, right? When they talk about what the different types of abortions are. So you are going to point out, like, here is where you are using a process. Here is where you are comparing and contrasting within that process analysis. They use compare contrast. So you're going to point that out. Like, I see that you are using this strategy here. You are using this strategy here. Once you've pointed out what they're doing, point out which one you think is best. Like, which strategy do you think they do well? So maybe here, I think they do a really good job using the definition strategy when they are um, clarifying the different types of abortion, clarifying what certain terms are. I think they do a good job of that, right? So I'm going to make a comment to that effect. Then you're going to focus on what do you think they could do better. So maybe when they're talking about the causes and effects, so like right here, if the procedure is not effective, oops, I'm about to move that word. Um, Maybe I think they can do that more clearly, or maybe I think they just need to expand on that, right? So when I think that there's something that they can do better, I'm going to put a comment in there like, okay, here is where I think you could expand this, and then give an example of how you think they could expand it, right? Give them a sample sentence or a sentence starter, or maybe something that you just think needs clarification. Don't just tell them like you could do better here, but show them how they could do better, all right? And then the last part of that peer critique form is the integration of sources. So first of all, what you're going to do is you're going to go down and you're going to look at their works cited page and you're going to see, do they have enough sources, right? Now, at this point, they obviously should have enough, but you need to double check that for them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do they have enough sources? Yes, you had to have 4 sources. Now, I should have already checked this for them, but maybe their sources have changed since the last time I looked at their essay. So the next thing you're going to do is, do these sources look reliable, right? So this kind of a citation in your source shows that it's coming from a journal that's peer reviewed. If it's got that doi.org, that is showing it's from a journal. So that's a pretty good article. This one's coming from a university, right? And they're talking about a medical issue. So that would probably be a pretty reliable source. Um, so, if it doesn't have an author, maybe kind of check those things. If I go to this website, do I find that the author is the same, right? So once you've checked that they have enough sources, then I want you to go through and check like, okay, do they cite every source that they have on their works cited page? Because if it's on their works cited page, that's indicating that they have cited it in their paper. So have they cited every source? So once you have checked that they've cited every source, then you're going to check that they did it correctly. So this one is not correctly cited. So it says Nagil and Dorbecker, 2023, right? So I'm going to go down to the works cited page. Where is that one? That's right here, right? So the only thing they're going to need to have is this. So the citation that they currently have is in APA formatting. So you're just going to you can do one of two things. You can comment on it and just put the correct citation, or you can say like, this is incorrectly cited, use MLA formatting. If you want to be a really helpful peer, you can then say like, it should be, and then put the correct citation in here, right? That's if you're, a super helpful peer. Or you can do this. You can go up here to editing, click suggesting, and then just erase what they have and put, oops, I don't want to erase the whole thing because all they need to have is that last word or that first word. So you're just going to erase this. Now, if you do this type of thing, then when they get their essay back, they can just click like accept, accept on this one, and it'll delete the rest of it, and now it's correct, right? So that's pretty helpful as a peer. You've checked that they have enough sources, their sources are reliable, they've cited each source that's on their works cited page, then you're going to go back and look at every time they have an in-text citation. Is it standing alone? Is it one of those like we talked about in class? Is it a drop-in quote or a drop-in paraphrase or summary? Or did they kind of explain why that information is there, right? So after each one, according to Biggs, Gould, and Foster, so right here, they're leading in. They have a signal phrase. That's great, right? And you might want to say, good job. You've got a signal phrase right here. Let's find one where they maybe don't. So in some states, if you're a minor, you must have parental consent to receive an abortion. If the parents don't consent, the abortion cannot be performed. The medical risks that come with an abortion may also deter people. So right here, it's not super clear what part of this is from the source, right? So we might want to make a comment here that says, I don't know what from the above information is being cited. Maybe lead in to the cited information so it's clear, so it's clear what is you and what is coming, from the source, right? So just kind of check each time you see either an according to or experts say that they've cited it and then that they've discussed why it's important. All right, so they're not just dropping something in. And when you see things like this, you'll go down and correct it for them or say you need to go back and correct and make sure that this is in the right format, right? Okay, so those are kind of the peer critique form. Now, the other thing that you should be doing as a peer critiquer is looking for those nitty gritty things, right? So I'm going to notice right away, right here, that they don't have a heading and they don't have their last name before the page number, all right? So instead of, you could do one of two things. So since I have it on suggesting, you could go in here and put last name, or if you know the peer, you could put their last name in there. And then they would just have to go in and click the check mark, and then it would put that last name in there for them. So if I knew this was my paper, right, I would put Stone. And then when I get the paper back, I could just be like, yes, that's my paper. And then it would put it in there for me. Now, in terms of the header, I don't think you should do that for them. You should say, hey, dude, you should have a header. So header is missing. And then if you think that they don't know what should be there, maybe put in a comment like it should be your name, professor's name, date, and this is day, month, and that doesn't need to be capitalized, by the way, year, right? And then, oh, actually, it needs to be the assignment. So for this one, it would be what? It would be explaining a concept, right? So last but not least, the thing you're going to do once you've kind of gone through the whole peer critique form and made really helpful both praise and critiques with suggestions of what they can do, then you're going to go through and do all that little nitty gritty stuff, right? If they've spelled things wrong, if they have grammatical errors, if they have a period in the wrong place, make those corrections for them. If there's a lot of them, feel free to let them know that they can utilize the Writing Center, and that's something that we'll talk about in class as well. You shouldn't expect from your peers that they're going to catch every little error, just like you shouldn't expect that from a teacher, right? Because as you make corrections to a draft, it changes how it's read. So I could read your zero draft and make certain comments, but then as you make corrections, that might change the entire flow of your essay. So there could be complete other comments that I wouldn't have made in a zero draft or your peer wouldn't have made in a zero draft that now are applicable because of the changes that you've made, right? A piece of writing is a living document, right? It's going to change as you make corrections. And having only 2 drafts due in this class does not mean that there should only be 2 versions of the draft that you are producing yourself, right? Um, Ideally, you're going to have many peers look at it over time. So once you have looked at the big picture stuff, you've looked at all the nitty gritty, um, that's about all you have to do for a peer review. So let me know if you have questions. Please make these comments within their digital document because that's easier for people to kind of keep track. And then they can go back and look at, okay, what did I have originally? What changes have I made over time? You can kind of see all the improvements you've made. After we do this peer critiquing process, you are going to have kind of a self-reflection and okay, based on the peer critiques that I've received, here's what I'm going to do with that information to improve my essay before the final version that I turn in. All right? Let me know if you have questions or comments, and I will get back with you.